Welcome back to the MANvFAT Wales YouTube channel for what feels to me like a pretty special occasion, because this is the second ever Coach of the Year, the second ever playable character on Football Manager to be on the sofa, the third ever Ben, the second time I've had the Swansea coach or a coach of Swansea on the sofa, but it still feels pretty special. It still feels pretty groundbreaking because it is Manager of the Year, Coach of the Year 2023, Ben Gleeson.
Hello, mate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming down.
It's a privilege to be here, man. I've, like I said, looked at this coach with some couch for some envy for like 100 episodes.
It has a name,
you know.
You're sat. I don't know if I've mentioned this before on the show, but you've sat in this. That's the same seat Ian Holloway sat in there.
Wow, man. Feels pretty special.
That was.
Would I offend you if I said he was the second best Holloway I know? Hi, Clayton.
Yeah, I'd agree. He is the second best Holloway. I know. I was trying to think of a joke there, but it wasn't there. But Clayton was a special one, as is this. So thank you so much for coming here on business today, of course, and a storied history at MANvFAT yourself. We've got many stories to tell. Hopefully we'll touch on a few of them. First question I ask everybody, let's go right back to the beginning. Okay. What was it that made you sign up to the programme in the very first place?
Okay, so that was 2018, I'm thinking. Early 2018, I can't remember exactly. I was playing regularly Sunday League down Heath Park with some mates. Mostly in goal. As most keepers do, they think, I fancy playing outfield, I could do that. Blew my Achilles.
No.
Overstretching for a ball. Took my leg back to try and push off the spring forward and it just went pop. Felt like I'd been shot. I went down like a kick dog, whelping. For a good 5-10 minutes. Unbelievable pain, and then it just stopped. And I thought, I'm alright. And then I got up and my foot was like this on the end of my leg. I was like, I'm not okay. Got to lift home. Put my foot up on the sofa, put some ice on it, said to the missus it'd be fine, I just need to sleep it off.
No.
I knew I'd ruptured it, right. But like most men, I didn't want to go down to A&E about it. I thought I can walk this off.
How were you walking then? Were you walking?
You can walk on it. You can walk on it. In a full rupture, there's hardly any pain after you've done it.
Right.
It's completely separated. It can weight bear, like there's nothing broken. It can weight bear, but you've got absolutely no control over lifting your foot up. There's that motion to lift your foot up's gone.
Is that the same injury as Rowley?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
And that's how I knew he'd done it when he did his, because he had no motion to lift up.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You think it, psychologically you will your foot to do it, it won't do it. It's gone.
Okay.
But you can walk on it, which makes you think it's not that bad.
Did you take 6 years to recover from yours?
No, I piled on a lot of weight. I was never active, but I was playing football once a week, walking to work. You know, I kept enough to maintain a decent weight.
Sure.
And I piled on weight. Lost my friends because sport and exercise was my way of socialising. Okay. That was my way of being around other blokes, talking. Even if it wasn't your deep conversations, it was the sort of, how you doing, how was work, how's the missus, how's the kids, the kind of thing keeps ticking over.
Yeah.
Lost that. Became a bit of a hermit, if I'm honest with you, a bit of a recluse, piled on weight. Thought I was okay because I was entertaining myself with, mediums of entertainment, electronics and whatever. Didn't realise I was becoming really depressed, lonely, isolated, miserable, to be honest with you. Absolutely miserable. Found it hard leaving the house after that. Found it really hard leaving the house. My wife actually, Bev, now, we were best friends at the time, and we had a thing where we were the kind of friends where we wouldn't see each other for about 6 months, and then message going, want to meet up? And then you'd be like, best friends reunited, like you've spent every day together, you know? A couple of times I met up, lasted 10 minutes and I'd leave. Right. Even in quiet social situations, just I couldn't handle it.
Sure.
You know? I was in a pub. I was in the Eli Jenkins in Cardiff, and there was Newport County were in the FA Cup on telly. Forest, Middlesbrough, I can't remember exactly who they were playing. With two of my mates. And we saw an ad for MANvFAT. Never heard of it before.
Really? On TV?
Never heard. No, one of my mates found out on his phone.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was Facebook or I don't know. So a targeted ad. He'd obviously been looking at ways to lose weight for men, and that popped up. You know? And he showed it to me and I was like, no, can't do that.
Why?
That's not for me. Like, I'm not ready to put myself socially out there and just
Okay.
join a bunch of people I've never met before and expose one of the things I'm most embarrassed about, my weight. I'm not ready for that. A couple of pints later, shows it to me again. He's like, come on, I'll join it. Maybe we can get on the same team. I was like, what have I got to lose? You know, like, I either do this or I just carry on for however many years being lonely, miserable, isolated. You know,
waiting for the change.
it's like, I need to do something. I was at that point, like, for me, in terms of my needs are the bottom rung of the ladder of everybody I know. Family, friends, work colleagues, peers, acquaintances, they all come before me.
Mm-hmm.
For me to actually do something for me, I need to be feeling miserable about myself. I need to be looking at myself in the mirror and find myself disgusting for me to do something about it. And I was at that point, I was like, where do I go? So I did it, and I signed up.
Who was that mate? Did he sign up with you?
Yeah, one of my best mates, Sam. He's been in and out of MANvFAT as well from the Cardiff League.
I must have met him too, right? Because I remember seeing you for the first time.
Yeah, man.
And I remember it, I don't know if this was the actual first, my earliest memory of you is walking along that bank at Channelview Leisure Centre in Cardiff, walking up the bank, and you were talking to someone about, it might have been Scott, I think, about how much weight you lost, and you were talking about another team and who hadn't done so well, and you were like, "Oh, what's going on in their group chat? What's going on in their group chat then if they're not losing weight?" And I thought, this is a guy who is plugged into not just himself, he was doing really well, but other teams as well.
Yeah.
From that early doors, right? Because that was 2018.
Yeah.
That was definitely 2018. That's when I joined. So it obviously grew from there.
Yeah.
You had a love for it,
Yeah.
and you never really left MANvFAT after that. I think you played in every Welsh league bar Wrexham, right, at this point.
Bar Wrexham, yeah, man. And Swansea. I've coached never played in that league.
Oh, okay.
They desperately tried to pull me in, but the commute is, yeah. When I was getting paid for it, okay.
Is it a bad commute to Swansea?
It was an hour drive there and back.
Really?
80-mile round trip a week it was, just
Oh,
to coach
quite
that
expensive,
league.
man.
I wanted to be a coach and it was the only league in Wales had a vacancy.
Sure.
So I thought I can put up with the distance. That was the reason I left eventually.
Yeah.
Because after doing it for 18 months, 22 years, I can't remember exactly how long it was. That was the crux for me moving on and starting my other ventures.
I definitely want to talk about the other ventures. But I want to talk first about, so you're in this pub, you signed up, you're a couple of pints in. What was the goal then? What did you want to achieve?
So initially it was injury rehab. I'll be completely honest.
Yeah.
I actually remember the group chat. I signed up and you get the little link at the bottom to say join the group chat, didn't you? I joined the Cardiff group chat and I actually put a message in the group. The first thing I ever said to anybody MANvFAT related was, is there anybody here whose main goal is not to lose weight? Because for me at the start it wasn't. It was rehabbing my injury. I was still getting over my ruptured Achilles. I knew I wanted to lose weight, but for me, getting over that was the main issue.
Yeah.
That was what was holding me back. That's what had seen my life go downhill.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to solve. Maybe playing football, if I stick myself in goal, play at what I presumed would be a slower standard than a Sunday league, that would give me the chance to rehab. And I remember Stan was actually the first person that replied and pretty much said, I think everybody here's got weight loss goals. I was like, oh, okay.
Didn't put you off.
It didn't put me off. It's going to sound like lip service now, but that passion from a guy that I'd never met before to immediately defend that value in the club was like, this is different. This isn't just guys meeting up and having a kick around.
Yeah.
There's something to this.
Great.
Went down to Cardiff, met yourself, met Naz, met Quinny, met Stan. Core group of guys that had obviously been running that league for a long time or had some involvement in that league for a long time. Met some other wonderful and some wacky characters there.
Wacky characters.
Met the team. Was really, really fortunate to be on a team of guys that just talked.
I've been trying to remember the name of that team and I just can't.
I was trying to
the yellow
remember,
team.
It was a yellow team. I was trying to remember, was there a team before that? But it wasn't. It was a yellow team. And I think it was quite a classic yellow name like Borussia Dortmund or something
I think
like that.
it was Borussia Dortmund, yeah.
It was something like that.
That was what was on the tip of my tongue. I thought, no, we've had Borussia.
Yeah.
There are brushes everywhere. It can't be that one.
Yeah, we had a couple of quieter guys. But we had guys like Scott Stanton, Chooch was there, Dan Ashcroft.
Will Jones was that team
Will
at
Jones
that
was the
time.
captain, and he was a bit of an icon in the league, I gather, at that point. And I think that was the first sort of split where they were asking for volunteers to move into new teams to become captains, and he put himself forward. And yeah, he was a strong captain of that ship, he was. But there were some big characters in the team. I'm really struggling to remember who was on that team now.
I can remember Will, yourself and Scott.
Yeah.
Will I actually saw about a year ago at a work party when I worked at the same place as him. He's at the Western League now and doing well. Doing well. Still a massive thespian.
Yeah.
But a good, like, that sort of character has remained with him, you know what I mean? So that was pleasing to see.
He was brilliant, yeah. And we just bonded. We had a group chat that just talked, you know? And I think that made it easier because I was quiet and socially anxious. I didn't have to chip in, I didn't have to get involved. It was alright if I only said one thing a day, one thing a week. Because there were other boys much more confident than me talking. And that got me out of my shell, that brought me forward. Like, I want to join in, like, I want to contribute, you know? Yeah, it was amazing, mate. I'd never experienced something like it. I turned up thinking this is going to be fads, this is going to be meal plans, they're going to try and get me to buy supplements, they're going to try and put me on exercise plans, get me to buy equipment, it's going to be all this.
And it could be that, right? It could be that, but it so isn't.
It isn't.
I haven't seen that anywhere, ever.
But that, I think, men's weight loss, the sort of preconception of that is that you have to be buying pills and you have to be shredding yourself down to 800 calories a day, eating nothing but chicken, rice and broccoli for every meal.
Chicken, rice and broccoli!
You know, I think that's the preconception. That's what I turned up expecting.
Yeah.
And I turned up and got the complete opposite. The complete opposite. And I remember the coach at the time literally just said something simple to me as like, eat less, move more. And that was it. And I was like, is that it?
Thanks, coach.
Is it that easy? It was like, I guess that doesn't work for everybody, but that was like the penny dropped. Just like, all right, I did.
And that's what you did.
Yeah, and I'm conscious of time. I don't want to be random, mate.
Don't
But
do that.
He talked to me about BMR, like and working out like where you are now in terms of the calories you're consuming every day to maintain the weight you were. And I was, what did I come into the league? About 140 kilos, the heaviest I've ever been. And I did this equation. There's websites you can do for it. It sounds fancy, but it's pretty much the same as working out your BMI.
I've got that calculation down.
Yeah?
It's close my eyes.
And mine came out as 3,300 calories. And that was what blew my mind. It's like, is that what I'm eating every day? It's like, is that how I am this size and I'm maintaining this size? I'm eating that much a day. And I knew 2,500 was about what they recommend. Yeah. And I was like, crap, like, I didn't realise I was so far over.
Sure.
And from that point on, I just lowered it. Slowly, I lowered it to 3,000, 2,800, 2,700. And weight fell off me. And I was amazed that this worked. I was amazed that something that simple, that didn't need all that extra guff that gets sold in the media, and it worked. And it changed my life, man. It revolutionised everything, you know? And of course, I didn't realise as I was going along, I was socialising, I was getting more confident, I was making friends. I didn't realise all that. I don't think you weekly track that. You only notice that when you look back 6 months later.
Yeah, the real stuff.
You know, it was amazing.
So the goal when you joined was recover the injury.
Yeah.
Those goals have morphed and changed plenty throughout your time here. Can you talk to us just briefly about the journey you've been on then, from player to your role within the organisation now?
So, as player with the yellow team, strong leaders on that team. Already touched on them. The torch was passed seemingly every season, as I guess it does in most leagues. Anybody want to be captain? I slowly stepped up and I saw what it entailed and was like, I'll give it a go. Enjoyed it. Then there was a reshuffle, then there was a change of location. White team then, Maradona Kebabs.
Good name.
Another strong team. I've been blessed with some really, really good teams. A lot of big voices on that team as well. One of the captains, I'll do it again, I've done it before.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, I'd hit most of my weight loss goals, fully recovered from my injury, was playing in goal and outfield and doing okay. Had got to a point where I'm comfortable with my weight. I don't really want to push it any further. Really happy where I am. So that, I felt like that was not conquered, but I was maintaining that, and I didn't feel like it was much of the main challenge anymore. My main challenge then was motivating these boys to try and help them lose their weight.
Yeah.
And they did. We had a great season. And then I was like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing from there? Like, I'm an ambitious guy. I need to have that next thing to aim for. Once I get there, I'm like, what's the next thing to aim for? I need something to drive.
Sure.
And Stan again, actually. This is all going to sound like he's going to love this.
It's coming up a lot, isn't it? It's coming up a lot.
The venue we were at was under COVID regulations at the time, so we had to wait outside the venue for our game. We couldn't go in. Bit of small talk starts generating out of it, and Stan just walks past and just drops that line like, I can't wait to see who's going to be this new Swansea coach. And I was like, there's a job going? didn't know anything about it, didn't know there was going to be a league there, didn't know they were looking for a coach, and I just remember asking him, like, how do you get involved with that? So to me, that was like the next step of, I've captained a team, like I saw coaches almost like a captain of the league, like that's the next step, you know? How do I get involved with that? And from there it just sort of snowballed. And I got talking to the right people, and I got sent the application link, and I put an application in, and never expected it to go anywhere. Just thought, I'll throw my hat in the ring. Had an interview, on Teams, Zoom, whatever, nervous as hell.
Really?
Nervous as hell.
Really?
I was bricking it. Before, during and after, bricking it. Then I got the phone call, and it was, I think that was more nerve-wracking than a full-time job phone call that you've applied for. You know, because it meant so much to me. I wanted it. I wanted it so much. And I was lucky enough to get it. I don't think I've ever celebrated so hard.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Because I've seen you celebrate.
Yeah.
I've seen you celebrate. We might even talk about that.
Yeah, maybe my kid's being born if the wife watches it. Kids being born, my marriage obviously. but outside of personal events, life events, yes, never celebrated so hard, mate. And then that was it. Picked up a league that had, there was a lot of boys that had been registered for MANvFAT for years. I think at that time it was a case of they'd registered for a league, and the only league in Wales was Cardiff. It was too far away from them. They wanted to join, but it was too far away, so they're just waiting for something to come into their area.
Sure.
So they've been registered as sort of like non-team players, waiting list players for 6 months, a year, 18 months, some of them.
Wow.
And then it started, and we had a WhatsApp chat. There were only about 17 or 18 lads in there, but all of them gagging to get going, eager for it. And then we had to postpone the launch because there wasn't enough boys to safely, viably launch the league. You know, the teams weren't full enough. They were gutted, absolutely gutted. You know, because it was dangled in front of them of, this is going to start.
Yeah.
And then another month's postponement. Keeping hold of some of those boys was tough. Keeping spirits up was tough. Marketing, recruiting was tough. Worked my backside off, not afraid to admit that. But put in so many extra hours. And at one point I was like, this is never going to get off the ground. This is never going to start. I couldn't see it because nothing was happening. I was working my backside off, and a number of the boys were. Everything I posted, they'd share. I was reaching out to everything I could think of. I think I must have pestered every single community group on Facebook in the Swansea area to the point where they got sick of me and blocked me, some of them.
Really?
I wanted to get the word out as much as I could, and nothing was happening. And then all of a sudden, one came in, and then two came in, and it slowly, the results of like 3 months of work only showed after 3 months when it slowly started trickling in, and the tap just turned on a little bit. Boys kept coming in. We launched. We had a pre-season that went really well. I think that really helped. We got footage, we got photos, we got live, real images of what actually happens here out, so boys could see. Okay, that isn't just, you know, your general power leagues with a scale on the side. This is different. And then it exploded.
There's this theory that I was reminded of when you were talking there, when you're trying to get something off the ground, likened to a gardener sowing seeds. And he's walking along the path and he's sowing his seeds. Some of those seeds are going to fall into the dirt and germinate immediately. Some of them are going to take a bit longer. Some of them are just going to fall on the path. But you'll turn around at the end of the path and they won't be germinated yet. It's going to take a while. And that sounds very similar to your experience there. Once that league got off the ground, this won't be news to you. You're a very, very highly respected guy. No one's got a bad word to say about you. And I remember walking through that Swansea league. It was so lovely to hear all these fantastic things people were saying about you. But my second favourite Bay Gleeson moment, we're at the coaches' conference in Wolves, and we're walking back to the car. Your write-ups have become famous at this point. Right, your graphics on Canva, your write-ups, and the sheer amount of minutes that go into the updates you were in the Swansea League was something that was inspiring to me. We're going back to the car, and you said something along the lines of, someone had nicked your Royal Rumble graphic, I think it was another league, and you said, I don't mind, it's nice to have that confidence boost that they think it's good enough to use. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, wait, even Ben needs a confidence boost like that. Because to me, you've never seen like the kind of guy that, not, obviously everyone has bad days, right? But you've never seen that kind of guy who had needed a confidence boost for someone like that. And I thought, well, he's actually taken something from someone stealing his work. And it meant quite a lot to you. You've spoken about your mental health during the injury, and if we can, I'd like to ask you about it again, and we can cut it if we need to.
Absolutely, mate. No, comfortable. Go for it.
But what has that relationship been like following joining the program and obviously getting involved and meeting these boys? And I know you've gone on to do amazing things in that space. But what's your relationship like with your mental health now?
So much better. So much better, man. I'm more than comfortable talking about it. I don't talk about it enough, to be honest with you. Hardly ever, but I'm comfortable. Yeah. I didn't realise that's what you took from that.
Really?
That you thought, yeah, man. The characteristic swan of looking graceful on the surface but paddling like hell underneath to stay afloat.
Love that.
That's what I've been like for 25 years, you know, man. Always suffered with anxiety, always suffered with a feeling of I'm not enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I could be doing more, or I'm letting people down, or I'm disappointing people, or people are unhappy with me, or that wasn't good enough. Always have that. Always have that little voice in the back of my head. Yeah, still now, mate. Constantly have it all the time, no matter what I do. No matter what I achieve, it's like a little bit of celebration of I did that, and then it's an immediate could you have done more, or was that good enough, or have you only been given it out of pity or out of sympathy, or did you actually earn that? And it's like I can't turn that voice off, but it's got a lot quieter because of MANvFAT. It's got a lot quieter. I've come out my shell a lot more. I can take a lot more on the chin. I've got thicker skin. Things don't bother me as much as they used to. But I still beat myself up all the time, drive my wife nuts.
Really?
Because I struggle to see the guy that other people see. I can't see that person. Very rarely, you know. I still see myself as like a shadow of a person, you know. And it's nice to hear those things, and it's nice to get that little bit of confidence boost. Like, oh, someone else wanted to do something like that, you know. It's like, yeah, crack on.
I was going through. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
I was going through a period of transition of my own at that point, and it was sort of the introduction I needed to like no one's fixed. No one's fixed, and everyone's got these things that you worry about too, like these little things that actually you think no one else is worrying about. Absolutely. Everyone is worrying about them. Man. And you, this is no word of a lie, you were the first person I thought, well, he's worrying about that stuff. And then I started listening to this podcast, the High Performance Podcast. It's a brilliant podcast, to be honest. Cool. And these people, so Chris Hoy, he's talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Max Whitlock, he was talking about a problem that he had right before a performance. Do you call them performances? Gymnastics? I guess.
Routine,
right before a routine. Something menial happened, and his head just went completely. And I thought, everyone's like that. And that means we're all the same.
Yeah, I'd have sessions early on, coaching in Swansea League, where something at the start, towards the start, wouldn't quite go the way that I wanted it to. Or I'd have a conversation with a guy that I could tell wanted more support, and in the moment I didn't quite have what he needed to hear, and he walked off. I beat myself up for the rest of the evening, no matter what happened for the rest of the evening, no matter if we had 20 milestones and we've lost 100 kilos, I beat myself up because that one guy went off without quite getting what he needed from the scales. And then at the end of the night, I'd seek reassurance from somebody. I'd be like, is that guy alright? They'd be like, what the hell are you on about? Of course he's alright. It was a really good evening. What the hell are you on about? Why are you worried about that? I can't get that out of my head.
I'm similar. I'll hold on to things like that, and I'll hold on to it until I can make sure it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Most recent, I was at a meal for work, and we had a bottle of wine, and the guy poured some wine into my glass, and it was about this much. And I was like, oh, cheers. I poured it to his glass, and it was a similar amount. And he was like, that's all that's left. And we didn't get a chance to clear the air until about an hour and a half later. Yeah. But I had that. Yeah. And I was going to make sure that he knew I wasn't being funny about the dribble of wine. I was just making a joke. Yeah, and I did. And I made sure that, we were cool. And he's like, I've forgotten about it. Yeah. Oh, you might have forgotten about it. But I won't forget about it.
That moment's on pause. Until you get that closure, that is on pause.
I don't find it so hard to do other things during that time, but I wouldn't have been able to enjoy it fully until I knew that was cleared up. Mm-hmm. So I can relate to that quite strongly.
I think, in general, it's given me. I don't want to get too sentimental. It's like I'm a much better man because of MANvFAT. Much better husband, much better father because of MANvFAT. But I think the most important thing is I know my worth now because of MANvFAT. Like I don't think like some of the things I've done recently. like going for my dream career and starting studying for that and stuff. Like, I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't gone through the process of being a player, captain, coach with MANvFAT, because it's given me the confidence to go, you know what, I want that, and I'm worth it. I can do that. In the past, I would have been like, you're not good enough for that. You can't do that. What the hell are you doing? Dreaming of doing something like that? You're never going to get there. Now I've got the confidence to go, you know what? But you little voice in my head, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's been. I don't know how to properly encapsulate what this has done, mate. My confidence is just, yeah.
I didn't know you before. I've only known you since you were here, and I'm thoroughly grateful to have met you. But I wonder what difference I would see in you if I'd have met Ben Gleeson pre-Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah.
I always ask everyone a favourite moment, but I want to zero in on a moment of yours if I can. Because I was lucky enough to be 3 seats round from you in Manchester when the Man vs Fat Coach of the Year 2023 shortlist is being revealed. And I met all the coaches on the list, and I felt very grateful to have been able to meet them. I was there, so I know what it felt like in the room, but I would never be able to replicate what you were feeling. And the emotion that came out of you and Mrs. Gleeson was phenomenal. I wonder if you could paint us a picture of what that felt like, but also what that meant.
Oh man, it was surreal. It was such a surreal moment. It was like Tom read my name out. I genuinely wasn't expecting it. And I wasn't expecting his delivery of the way, because my anxiety, my tension was so high in that moment.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, whoever was announced, I wasn't expecting him to deliver it so quickly. I don't know if it was quick, but I expected him to build some suspense and drama. And then he was just like, the winner is, I was like, what?
Right.
And I could feel people sort of like cheering around me, and I felt like almost the moment was silent. I was like, what happened? You know? And then it clicked, and I was like, I can't believe it. I genuinely couldn't believe it in the moment. Like, I was honoured enough to win the regional one that qualified you to compete for the national one. And I mean that genuinely, because at the time that I won the regional one, I wasn't a coach anymore. I'd left and passed the duties of running Swansea on to Howell, who's amazing. But I thought, there's no way I can even compete for an award like that when I've left.
Yeah.
I thought it would be maybe like a sort of
a nice acknowledgement.
A nice acknowledgement, or maybe even I just wouldn't get to there, and it would be sort of like a bit of a conversation afterwards, behind the scenes of really appreciate it or whatever.
Yeah.
But obviously, because you stepped down, other people. It's like, so to win the regional one was amazing. To get to compete for the national one of the other coaches who was up for it, Beverly Young in Carlisle. So much respect for her, because me and her have had so many conversations during our time as coaches. She reaches out to me for help, I reach out to her for help. We share, we bounce off each other for ideas. And I think half of me was waiting for me to celebrate my friend winning it.
Yeah.
And her to be announced, you know? It was just surreal, man. But I think from what we spoke about before in terms of needing to know you enough, the main feeling was validation of all that hard work's been noticed and acknowledged. I guess that might sound a little bit arrogant that I needed that in that moment, but that validation meant everything. That, you know, like, I didn't realise how much I needed that, because the boys losing all the weight was what I did it for.
Oh, of course.
We smashed over 2 tons of weight loss, and it's just unreal. But personally, for all the late nights, for all the long travelling, for all the, you know, being up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning doing write-ups and all that stuff, it's like just in that moment, the relief and the validation to know that someone noticed was amazing to me. It meant everything. It meant everything.
I love hearing you talk about it.
And then I got up there, and he gives me the mic. It's like,
first time that happened in the night as well.
I was going to say, like, none of the other awards had to speak, but you throw this mic in front of my face. It's like, cheers, mate.
Do you remember what he said?
No.
He said, "You clearly mean a lot to a lot of people."
No, I don't remember that at all.
I remember because I heard it and I thought, yeah, it hasn't made anyone else speak, but clearly there's a plan here that we're going to get Ben to talk.
I just remember crying.
Yeah,
and thanking my wife.
But she's a great place to start too, right? Because ultimately, and we say this to lots of the boys, and you can see it in lots of the boys as well. The number one person that's going to help you achieve is your partner or the person you live with, right?
Absolutely.
If they're not on board with pretty much everything you decide to do in some way, and whether that is being fully behind you, being all in with you, or just not being obstructive, the second they become obstructive is when this becomes really difficult.
Yeah.
And she was there with you right up until you left the club. A shitty nightclub that we ended up in afterwards. We had an actual ball pit in it.
Aye, mate. And beer pong, yeah.
Oh, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So all of that, like, I got to give Mrs. Gleeson a couple of minutes. Like, exactly how pivotal is she in all of your success?
She everything. So a Tuesday night for me, not to bore you with the intricate details, would be go to work. I was working in a hospital at the time, so it'd be go to work. I was 9 to 5. I'd have all my gear in the boot because I wasn't going home. No point in me driving home because the distance from where I worked to Swansea was so great that I had to go straight from. I'd come out of one uniform, get changed, and go to another job. So I'd leave the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't get back in the house till 11:30, midnight.
Okay.
I miss the kids. I miss the daily routine. The wife would work herself. She's a full-time teacher. She'd go to work. She'd have to pick the kids up. She'd have to do dinner time with the kids. She'd have to do bedtime with the kids. She'd have to sort her own meals out, sort the house out, the washing, the chores, whatever.
That's everything.
Everything. Every Tuesday night, every week for more than 18 months, and never once moped. Never once criticised me. Never once said, "Have you got to do this? Like, why have you always got to disappear?" Or never once guilt tripped me with like the kids miss you or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just supported me. Always supported me. Like, have a great night. Messaged me during the night. How's it going? You know, as long as I brought her back a little flurry for her at the end of the night. She was but so supportive. Never once made me feel like what I was doing wasn't something that I should be doing. Like, yeah, you go chase that. If that's your passion. If that's what you want to do, go for it. So supportive. I couldn't have asked for anything better, mate. Just
Mrs. Gleeson.
She's just amazing.
I called her Mrs. Gleeson all night at the awards because I didn't know what her name was. So I just went with Mrs. Gleeson.
Do you know now?
I do think I know now, but also the shattering the mirage of it. There are people who, like Stan, I'm not sure Stan's real name. It's not true. I wish I didn't know it though.
It's just Stan.
Stanford. We've been going at this point for 40 plus minutes, so I think we could probably go for another 40, but it's probably time to pull this boat into the shore. Yeah. Although the next time you're in town we could do a part 2, because I feel like we haven't touched on the new ventures that you're working on, this dream that you're pursuing, and also, I mean, that's probably the main thing, but we could probably still talk the tournaments and stuff we haven't talked about, and you know, I'd be really grateful for the time, so thank you very much for it.
I'd love to, thank you.
I always end with the same question, and I think you're going to give a phenomenal answer, no pressure. If you're talking to a hypothetical man, and he is, let's say he's in the Eli Jenkins pub in Cardiff, and he's thinking that he wants to take action. He's probably your mate. He wants to take action on his weight, but he's not quite sure what to do, and he's considering MANvFAT as an option, but he hasn't quite nailed down what he wants to do next. And you've got 5 minutes with him. What would you say?
Big question. I'd do everything in my power to get him to do it. Even if I had to wrestle the phone off him and sign him up and nick his card and do it for him, I'd do it. Just do it. Like, I joined as a stranger on my own, anxious, and within weeks I had a band of 10, 11 brothers that I knew were going to be mates for life.
Ready made.
Every single person in the same boat, rowing in the same direction towards the same goal, wants the same thing, coming from a similar background, similar personality, similar worries, doubts. We were so alike. I'm still in contact with those guys now. That was 5-6 years, and I'm still in contact with most of those guys now. Still asking how they're doing. I made mates for life. It changed everything. It changed my perspective. It changed my relationship with myself, relationship with food. What I wanted out of life, it changed everything, mate, just from signing up. And I wish I'd done it sooner. I wish I'd done it 5 years sooner than that. And I'm so glad I did it in that moment. And I would push guys to do it. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I cannot recommend it. It's been the best thing I've done for myself. personally.
Well, I'm very grateful to Sam in that moment to persuading you to join, and I'm sure there are boys outside, there are boys at the M4 and beyond that are equally as grateful as me. So thanks to Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, that was great.